What are you building? Most of our lives we spend on building a career, a home, or a future for our family. For Psalm 127, it asks a simple but confronting question. What happens if God isn't a part of that building? This short psalm reminds us that our effort alone is not enough, or is never enough. Psalm 127 is a song of accents, and it's one of the few psalms that had been written by Solomon. And Solomon understood something about buildings because he built the cities and also palaces. However, in this psalm, he makes one thing clear. No matter how we work, no matter how hard we work, the ultimate answer, the outcome ultimately belongs to God. Let's read Psalm 127. Lord, help us understand his word. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build in labor in vain. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who built it labor in vain. Unless the Lord guards the city, the guard keeps watch in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives sleep to his beloved. Sons are indeed a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of a womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the sons of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. Let the Lord blesses us reading his word, and let him help us understand and open our minds to his word, and let it be food to our souls, heart, and body. This is one of my favorite songs. Ever since we were young, my mother used to just always tell us to memorize these songs, and we usually say it during our evening prayers in Samoan. So it's a very encouraging song, and it's always been encouraging and been reminding me of without God, everything would just be in vain. You know, it's just hard work and working for something, but without him, I'm just working alone. You know, I'm just doing it for nothing. So what does the psalm say? We reflect that this psalm begins with a powerful statement. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who built it labor in vain. You know, that's how it started off at verse 1. So those who are in vain when they're building is without the Lord. I think it's not saying that work is useless, that our work is useless, but it's just, and also I think scripture never discourages diligence, but it reminds us that human effort alone cannot secure what we care most about. We can work hard to build a home, but only God can give that stability in your home, in my home. That's how I built my home too, you know, at the moment. Also, the psalm also speaks about anxiety, rising early, staying up late, striving constantly, trying to do our best. Many of us live this exact life, live like this, we wake up early for 9 to 5, thinking of, okay, what we're going to do tomorrow and how work is going to be, and staying late sometimes, going home just exhausted, overusing our energy, and it's just makes us feel tired, and grumpy, and then just dreading the next day. But Psalm 127 reminds us, or Solomon reminds us, that God gives rest to those he loves. He gives rest to those he loves. Then the second half of the psalm, it shifts to something interesting, to the children, or our children, or the children. They're described as heritage, as we read here, as heritage from the Lord, like arrows in the hand of the warriors. So when if you look at an archer or a warrior that we always see in the movies and in comic books or in books, they have like a little, I guess, a pouch or like a pocket where they store their arrows. And Psalm 127 is describing children as those arrows in a warrior's hand or in a warrior's possession. And an archer without arrows, he's no archer. He's defenseless. But here the Psalms is describing the children as those arrows, meaning those are the archer's weapons, his defense, for them to protect them during times of battle, or for them to strike, the enemy. So it's very interesting as we continue. In other words, our family is not a burden to endure, but a blessing entrusted to us. It's the archer carrying his arrows is not a burden to him because he needs them, for battle. So this is how our children is with us. They are not a burden, but a blessing. There comes a time when you're gonna need your children. There'll come a time when your strength is a bit low. When you need them, they will step up. Just how the archer needs his arrows. So I think this psalm is reminding us that building a life isn't just about work or achievements. It's about trusting God with things we cannot control, which is this life. We cannot control things that we can't, the future. We cannot control, and we're not promised tomorrow. So sometimes we just work hard to try to control the future. But Psalm 127 is reminding us that, we have to trust God. We have to involve God in whatever we're building. So if you're out there hustling, working hard, building a career, providing for your family, trying to secure a safer future, especially in these times, wars, rumors of wars, famine, the rise in inflation, the rise of prices of living, Psalm 127 invites us to pause and ask one question, am I building with God, or am I trying to carry everything alone? Because it's a very depressing feeling, as a father trying to carry your family. I feel the same way. Sometimes I just do too much, thinking that my strength will last, will be there. But at the end of the day, it gets exhausting. That's why we need Jesus. That's why we need God, to give us that strength, to carry that unknown for us, which, the scriptures encourage us to. That's basically what it is, It's telling us to give it to Him. Let Him carry it for us. So, it's true security doesn't come from working endlessly. It comes from trusting the one who actually holds the outcome, which is God. And it reminds us not to overlook the gifts of God places in our lives, and especially our families. When we work too hard, we tend to forget the blessings God has blessed us. Forget the little things. Forget our duty as parents. I realized recently, like in the weekend, I thought of just working hard, save up money for the future, but tend to forget the now, the time spent with family, the making of memories, and just leave everything else for God to do and to control, because I can't control it. So it's very encouraging. Psalm 127 is also one of my favorite Psalms. I encourage my kids to memorize it too. When times are struggle, when you're working hard, they look back, and it gives me motivation and encouragement. So thank you for reading scripture with me. I will continue walking through the Psalms one day at a time, and I hope you're well, and God bless you. Have a good day.